Let's kick things off. I'd like to welcome and introduce you to Dan and Morgan from Cobweb, who are going to be running the webinar today. So I'm not going to take up too much time. There'll be plenty of time for Q&A at the end, but I'm very happy to hand over to Dan and Morgan to kick off the webinar. Thanks, guys.
Very much, Simon. Good afternoon, everyone. So today we're going to be going through some foundations and key talking points around the cyber landscape and just sort of how Cobweb and the MSKPN network can help protect your business. So what we're going to be looking through is the cyber threat and where and why things are going to come at you with all sides. So why do we need cybersecurity? There's a common misconception that the SMB sector of businesses won't be targeted because they don't have either a large enough workforce, a high enough revenue, or just they aren't reputable enough to be attacked. When in reality, these are the businesses that criminals are actively looking for because they have little to no security in place to stop them. They are prime targets to be breached and extorted easily and moreover successfully. Larger corporations aren't exempt from being targets either, but they have a much more robust and sophisticated environment that is a lot harder to crack with simple spam and phishing emails. They tend to have a dedicated, mostly in-house or available at the drop of a hat, expert IT teams to remediate and deal with threats immediately. This is why it's crucial for any business to have a cybersecurity plan in place, as it's not a case of if you'll get attacked, it's more so when. I'm not going to go through too many sort of stats and bore you to death with that during the presentation, but here are some sort of particularly scary statistics for you. So 43% of all the breaches involve small to medium-sized businesses. Every minute, 4 companies will fall victim to ransomware, and one of those companies won't get their data or their money back. It's a very scary statistic to think that one company could be you if you don't have anything in place. And it's not just, well, it's just the big companies. It's not just the big companies. I'll go through a couple of these. On actually last month, British Airways, Boots and BBC all announced that their payroll service provider, Zealous, had become a victim of a successful cyber attack, and as of which resulted in the personal data breach of all of their staff. So that's a lot of staff, as you can imagine. And Capital One, there was an ex-Amazon employee called Paige Thompson, who was responsible for the largest data breach in US history. She downloaded data from more than 100 million Capital One users, including 120,000 social security numbers and about 77,000 bank account numbers. And she managed to rack up around $250 million in damage to companies and individuals. So if large corporations are being attacked, so with the SMB sector, the small medium business, and they're being attacked at a rate of 2,645 per minute, which is 44 per second. So that means at the end of this webinar, approximately 79,000 will have become potential victims. And that threat landscape is changing on a daily basis. There are new pieces of malware and ransomware, key logging software, and many other threats are being created to exploit your business. And most attacks are monetary driven, and other comprise of either revenge or espionage or employee disgruntlement. So let's pose a question. If your business was successfully breached due to a lack of security or a lack of awareness, what would that mean to you? What would be your financial impact? Would it be loss of productivity, loss of sales, loss of time? How would your customers and your clients see your brand now knowing that their data could have been compromised or their passwords leak, etc.? Quite a scary thing to think about. So it's a case of, can you afford not to protect? These are quotes that are from a reputable source, and I'll go through a couple of these. I won't go through all of them. We're a small company. The biggest issue is trying to survive on a week-to-week basis. We get it. We can't afford to allocate sums to cybersecurity, and I'll spend it as and when I have it, or if I need to. That's more of a reactive business. So they're hoping to not get hacked, but if they do get hacked, they'll deal with it as and when. we're not on the radar of international actors. We're flying under the radar. That's quite a common thing that we hear from a lot of our customers. You know, we're not big enough to be attacked. Everyone is on the radar of any criminal, especially the small to medium business sector. So we're going to go through a short case study of a smaller business. They were notified initially of a £10,000 transaction that was initiated by an unknown source, and then later identified 6 other transfers, which were totaling nearly £500,000 in money. How? What happened was some malware was installed after a colleague clicked an email I clicked a link within an email that came into their mailbox. And as soon as that link was clicked, it downloaded some key logging software onto their computer, and in the background captured all of their keystrokes and their logins to the banking credentials. So what happened after that? They initially only retrieved 200,000 of that stolen money, and not having any cybersecurity in place delayed the company response, as they had to outsource to get remediation and time and legal help from that one. And eventually they managed to recover the 350,000 on top of that, but they didn't get anything back for the time that they spent and loss of productivity. Now, that is a fortunate company. There are other unfortunate companies, such as this one. This is a hotel with 60 employees as opposed to 20, so a lot bit larger. A bookkeeper received insufficient fund notifications of a recurring bill from a direct debit, and they highlighted it to the CEO. The CEO had clicked on the malicious link, not knowing that the bookkeeper that sent the link through didn't do their sort of due diligence and thought the email was from a legitimate source. Once again, they entered their credentials, login information was stolen, and full access to that entire business was given through that link. So the hotel's cash reserves were completely depleted, and they managed to extract £1 million worth of revenue out of that business, and it was lost to China, and they never got that money back. It's a very common thing for a lot of businesses to go through similar aspects. Some have a slightly less severe problem with that. They might have people trying to buy gift cards and scratching those off and sending it to other people within the business, thinking it's come from a CEO. They're more on the low level, but can still be quite damaging to either reputation or just financially. So with the SMB sector, there is an overall unfortunate position that it's a lacking a foundation that a lot of businesses have. So this is again from the Office of National Statistics, I believe. 24% have malware protection. That leaves a large majority of people completely unprotected. 30% have strong passwords, and 33% have limited admin access. On the opposite end of the scale, 37% have multi-factor authentication, and 14-day policy is only at 31%. So these are very low for any business to really look at, and it's important to get that cybersecurity position in any business to be the best it can physically be, either within your budgetary restrictions or within your knowledge to be able to do so. And if not, it is strongly recommended to outsource that to someone that can put that in place for you. So if this is the problem, what's the solution? The solution is to have the correct licensing, to have some email protection, to have a backup or disaster recovery service, and if you wanted to have all of that wrapped up and done on your behalf, a managed service. Because at the end of the day, a lot of companies won't have the dedicated time or the expertise to maintain these, to ensure that the best practices are in place on a daily basis or a weekly basis to remediate these threats when they come up. So having a managed service and a dedicated IT team of experts to do that on your behalf will free up a lot of your individual time to focus on the business at hand. So cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination. No one expects someone to go from nothing to everything in a day. It will take a longer period than that, and it will take some expertise and some hand-holding along that way to get to a secure position overall. And that is where security starts with having the right foundation license. You may have several different licenses within the Microsoft stack, what Cobweb recommend as a baseline for having an optimal security starts with Microsoft Business Premium. Within the Business Premium license, you'll have the full access to the Word, Excel, PowerPoint functionality in the Microsoft suite from that perspective. You'll also have access to SharePoint and your Outlook and Mail and Exchange. But crucially, you will have key pieces of security and protection in Microsoft Intune, Azure Information Protection, Microsoft Defender, and Azure Active Directory Premium P1. All of these as a combined license will give you an excellent foundation to start your cybersecurity journey and create an environment that is going to be able to be built upon with potential third-party integrations on top. Within more of the Business Premium benefits, you'll have continuous security updates. You'll be able to back up your computer and devices files through to OneDrive, have additional platforms for third-party security add-ons, access and data control, which is crucial for any business, additional security measures, and lastly, Defender for Business. If you have any questions on these, I'll happily go through those at the end, because I know there'll be some questions around that particular license. Alongside that stack of Microsoft features, you can go for the Business Basic, which is their entry-level business SKU. Or if you wanted to go into a slightly higher SKU, you have the Business Standard option as well, which gives you all of the Microsoft applications download straight onto your desktop as opposed to a cloud-only version. Now, how would you build on this license if it's got what it needs in it, you might be thinking? With additional cybersecurity solutions such as Mimecast, Acronis, LastPass, or KnowBe4, Cobweb work with an array of different vendors, which are all industry leading and have their own independent benefits to stacking your cybersecurity foundation. We recommend a multi-layered approach, as there will be vendors that will cover gaps from Microsoft and complement them alongside to give you the maximum amount of protection. We, within Cobweb, go with professional services implementations, excuse me, that will help you on a step-by-step journey to go from A to B and give you the best level of protection, the best level of expertise, and have that professionally rolled out over a period of time to ensure that no stone is left overturned. And all of the cybersecurity solutions are available as a managed service. So once again, a third party like ourselves can look after your entire environment on your behalf and giving you all of the time to focus on the business at hand.
I think you edited it slightly.
Sorry? Was that Richard?
Apologies, I was supposed to be on mute.
No worries. Lucy, would you be able to pop yourself on mute as well? Thank you. So within the cybersecurity stack, as mentioned, there is a vendor we work very closely with, Mimecast. They are an industry leader in the email security sector, and they work with Office seamlessly to remove and remediate any of the incoming threats such as spam, malware, or phishing that can be very detrimental to the business. With one click of, as you've seen with the previous case examples, one click on a malicious phishing link can cause irreparable damage to the business and cause a lot of time and effort to be spent on remediating that. They also have training and awareness training services that you can bolster onto that particular stack to give your clients and users a much better understanding of the threats that are coming in and to train them on best practices and what not to do when facing malicious or potentially suspicious emails. Alongside that, if you have any compliance or governance requirements, they also have a full stack of archiving tools that you can use to back up all of your emails within a secure and encrypted vault. And then any suspicious emails outside of that will all be remediated before they come into your mailbox, so leaving you with a much better understanding and a much easier way of dealing with your threats. To tail alongside, we recommend having an Acronis solution. As you can see, they love using the word advanced in all of their additional bolt-ons, but they are our #1 backup provider that we work with within Cobweb, and they give you a full Microsoft 365 backup environment, which would include your Teams, your OneDrive, your SharePoint sites, and also your mailbox for all of your users, in an encrypted backup that is kept in over 44 different data centers across the world. Adding to those, you can have additional security measures and endpoint detection and response. If you wanted to have additional disaster recovery in case of the worst was to happen, then you can all have those bolstered on to the Acronis suite. Now, to go into the managed services, we have a large customer base within our managed services portfolio that rely on us to manage their entire estate for them on their behalf. And why and what would you have within a managed service? You would have reactive service and proactive monitoring. Our managed services team focus on your environment on a daily basis to ensure that if there are any issues, we aim to fix them before it causes you any impact, and we will liaise with any of the assigned contacts within the business when there are some recommendations and best practices that we can monitor and put into place within your business. We will monitor on a daily basis, again, with regular checks, the configuration of your Microsoft tenant and your Microsoft environment, and then we'll give you quarterly reviews to show you exactly where and how we can improve your service and what we have done to prevent any further compromise into your business as well. So why would you use a managed service? It's effectively looking at the #1, which is cost control. You're not going to want to spend hundreds of pounds remediating and looking at your issues on a daily basis. You can have improved security, scalability, and again, proactive 24/7 monitoring to give you guys the more focus on your business at hand as opposed to your IT aspect. The benefits of being an MSKPN member: you have the minimum 5% discount on all of your Microsoft 365 licensing, a minimum of 10% discount on all other Cobweb services and licensing as well. Expert consultancy: you'll have a wide range and access to support and professional services. If you had any particular questions, you can give them a call and they will go through it with you on a step-by-step guidance level and tailor it exactly to your environment, alongside having additional training and webinars that are regular within the Cobweb environment. That is the end of the presentation. Did you have any questions at all for me?
Thank you, Dan. I guess one question, maybe it's just a point of clarity. I thought it would be really useful for people to understand, I guess, the main points that these the main points of access for these security threats, because clearly this is about looking at your own individual risk profile and then working out how best to support it. So what are the main ways typically of egress into a small business that you're aware of?
Email is the #1 route into most businesses. 97% of successful cyber attacks come via email. So it is crucial to have that as secure as physically possible, using both Microsoft and also Mimecast as a layered approach to having that threat tackled. The common way that most criminals will make their way into the business via an email is embedded in links and attachments. So when you have a fake Amazon or a fake eBay, a Facebook email come through that looks legitimate, most people won't check the sender. They'll just assume that it is from the person that's being sent from, i.e. Facebook. Click on the link and away they go. They already have your credentials and they're in. So that's one example. Yeah,
and that's certainly our experience at Pure Sports Medicine. And I guess the question to pose to the members on here is, if you've had an attack, you'll be acutely aware. But probably just to give you some context about my experience with this, we probably get 1 to 2 phishing attacks a month, and these are typically people masquerading as me as the chief executive, and asking members of staff, management to purchase vouchers, things like that. So the threat is real. A few years ago, we had a very near miss whereby if it had gone through, we would have lost over £30,000. So these threats are real. In terms of email, we now have we've got obviously Microsoft as our core product, but we use Mimecast, have done for a number of years now, and without that product in place, I know we would have a lot more. So it's doing its job. But if any of the other members have experiences to share, that'd be useful. I think the other point I guess I wanted to make was, I guess, in our own experience as well, as we've discussed, Dan, this is very much a journey. It's really important to start somewhere. And within our estate, we have a mixture of Microsoft licenses, which we have decided upon the risk profile of the individual. So people that are traveling around multiple sites, people that have laptops that are working remotely, we have the premium license for them. And for others where it's a more robust environment, i.e. they're accessing a computer from a clinic room, we've got two-factor authentication on our practice management software, then they'll use the basic license supported by Mimecast. So you can mix and match. And again, I think it's really important to understand your own risk profile depending on how your staff are accessing key information. I think if you are relying on a business on very basic email tools like Yahoo, AOL, etc., I think that's a concern. I think having a proper email server is really important. But yeah, just thought it'd be worth sharing a few of my experiences so far. But any questions, please raise your hand so we can get them across to Dan and to Morgan. No questions, Dan. You must have covered everything in sufficient detail.
Happy days.
So I just thought, I'd like to thank you for taking the time to present to us today. Just so everyone, all the members are aware, I've had a long-standing relationship with Cobweb over a long time, and use them for some services, not all. We've got a number of different providers, but I've just found them incredibly professional the whole time I've dealt with them. And so anyone who has got a question mark about cybersecurity or general IT security in their business, well worth the call, conversation. There's no obligation, clearly up front, but start the conversation and find out exactly where your business is at. I think it's really a really interesting process, and we're on a journey still ourselves. We've changed licensing in the last 12 months, and I intend to make some more changes to that next year. So it's one of those things. I'm very aware that everyone is watching cost and expenditure, but equally this is a cost of doing business safely. So it's almost essential. I think that's a really important point. But if you are interested, please reach out and we can organise to get you connected with the guys at Cobweb to pick up an initial conversation. But Dan, again, thanks very much for taking the time to present.
No problem. Thank you very much, everyone.
Great. Well, we'll give you a few minutes of your hour back, and thanks a lot. Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.